Welcome to Note-Taking, a workshop from the Gaston College Writing Center. I encourage you to take notes during this presentation so that at the end you can evaluate your note-taking skills based on the information presented here. It's important to understand that note-taking is a purposeful activity. Some of the goals of note-taking include enhancing memorization and understanding of concepts, synthesizing information, putting concepts, definitions, ideas, and theories in your own language, reducing study time, and focusing your attention on the material you need to learn. Before we get into the ins and outs of some specific note-taking strategies, let's go over some general tips to help you improve your note-taking process. First, remember to always date your notes. That will help you keep everything neat and organized. Titling the page with the topic of that section of notes will also help with organization. Another helpful tip is to not try to write down everything. If you try to transcribe every little detail of what your instructor says, you may miss out on getting some of the bigger details, which are what you need to focus the most on. Now, if you do miss something, a way to compensate for that would be to use signals for areas you know you need to return to. Note-taking doesn't necessarily end when the class ends. It's helpful to come up with your own system of symbols and abbreviations. Some common examples are using W/ and W/out for the words with and without, or EX period for the word example. You can also speed up your note-taking process by omitting articles like a, an, and the, as well as other non-essential words, unless they are needed for clarity. Similarly, there is no need to write your notes in full sentences. Finally, in thinking about the different methods one could use for note-taking, it's important to choose a structure that works for you. Think about the purpose of the notes and what class they are for. Some topics may lend themselves better to images and diagrams, while others may be better conveyed with simple bullet points. It really depends on the context of the notes, as well as your personal preference and learning style. When it comes to determining your preferred way of taking notes, it's important to consider which is more beneficial, typing or handwriting your notes. There are pros and cons of each. When it comes to handwritten notes, studies have repeatedly shown that handwriting notes aids in retention, making handwriting notes the preferred method. The downside of taking handwritten notes is that it can be a time-consuming process. Conversely, typing your notes can be faster, depending on your skill level, and typed notes are easier to edit. But when typing notes on your laptop, tablet, or phone, it is much easier to get distracted by a notification or remembering that thing you meant to Google earlier. Bottom line, studies have shown that handwriting notes is generally preferable to typing them. One reason for this preference has to do with a concept called haptics, which simply means related to or based on sense of touch. You've probably noticed that there is a slight feeling of movement your phone makes when you use certain apps or type in a text message. That's haptics. This concept relates to the debate between handwriting notes versus typing notes, as handwriting notes taps into haptics by forcing your hand to physically write about the topics being discussed, while typing is a mere reflex based on memorization. So, we all know that note-taking is a part of academic life, but you may not think about other areas of life where note-taking comes into play. We take notes during meetings and interviews, when doing personal research, when paying bills, during arguments, while doing personal reading, and when making to-do lists. No matter the purpose of your note-taking, it's important to find a note-taking method that works for you. What is the best way to determine a note-taking method that will work for you? Every task does not call for the same method, so consider the following questions when picking a method. What purpose will the notes serve? What are you taking notes on? Is it a spoken lecture where your teacher speaks super fast? Is it a printed PDF homework assignment? Is it ingredients for a recipe? What you're taking notes on can help you decide how you should take those notes. Are the notes meant to be turned in or shared with anyone else? How do you understand and remember concepts best? Are you a visual learner? Do you need all the details? Do you prefer using headings to separate information? Do you think that color coding concepts could be helpful? Your answers to all of these questions could be the key to determining which of the following note-taking strategies to try in a given situation. Now, let's take a look at a few different types of note-taking. First up, we have one of the most well-known strategies for note-taking, the Cornell method. It even has its own Wikipedia page. As shown here, the Cornell method is all about organization. It advises you to make a chart with a column on the left, a column on the right, and a space below that stretches across both columns. You can label the left-hand column Topics/Cues, and underneath that, you can bullet point main ideas, prompts for anything you know you will need to look back at, and any questions you have about the material being presented. The right-hand column can be titled Notes and can include bullet points for main points, details, descriptions, and definitions of concepts below. Finally, the section at the bottom can be called Summary, and this is where your note-taking can continue after the class is over, when you summarize the most important takeaways from the notes you took during the class time. If you are a student who either struggles with organization or really likes staying organized, this method could work well for you. This next example shows the Cornell method in more of a handwritten format, which is closer to what it would probably look like if you put it into practice. While this image shows a pre-made page organized in a similar fashion to the one from our first Cornell method example, you could always try to replicate this using a regular piece of notebook paper, sticking with the same format of questions and main ideas on one side, your notes on the other side, and a summary at the bottom. One thing I like about this example is how it includes a space for the topic, as well as a space for the name of the class and date of the class lecture at the top. Including this information can really help you keep your organization on point. The next note-taking method we will cover, the charting method, is also a good way to help you keep your notes organized. It uses columns similar to the ones from the Cornell method, but these are a bit less detailed. As shown here, this method uses 3 columns, labeled as Idea 1, Idea 2, and Idea 3. You could really label them however you wanted. This is just one basic example. In this next, handwritten example, the columns are labeled as categories rather than ideas, and it works just as well. As explained through this example, the student would choose the categories based on subject matter. For instance, for a history class, your categories could be based on dates, events, people, and places. For a science class, you could use categories like people, theories, dates, and proposals. And for math, it could be things like equation, purpose, and example. So this is a method that can be tailored to many different courses and subject matters, and I like the versatility of that. In this final example of the charting method, we see an example of it being used for notes from a psychology or perhaps an early childhood development class. The first column is for the theorist, the second for their country of origin, the third for the years they were active, and the fourth for the stages of child development these theorists focused on. This example illustrates how useful the charting method could be in keeping your notes neat and organized, and I could really see using this when studying for an exam. So, the next note-taking method we're going to delve into is the mapping method, and this method is great for students who are visual learners. I'm going to show you several examples of this, starting with one that shows the basic format. Here, you can see that the biggest idea, note-taking, is our starting point, and is placed in a single bubble on the left-hand side. From there, the details, in this case, 2 different ways of taking notes, writing by hand or typing, are branched off into 2 separate bubbles. And then those have further details, the benefits or drawbacks of each, branching off. Even smaller details could come from those, and so on and so forth. This next example shows the mapping method in action. Here, a student has used it to compile some notes on different types of green energy. And this example also shows the versatility of the mapping method, as the previous, basic example was presented horizontally, while this one is more vertically oriented. The main topic, green energy, appears at the top, with the 5 types of green energy presented as branching off underneath, with each one having its own description below. Our final mapping method example is also a very common way to use this visually based note-taking strategy. This one starts from the center and goes out in several directions from there, with the main topic, body language, in a bubble in the middle, with aspects of body language like movement, facial expression, posture, and gestures branching off, and the smaller details of those providing further branches. I like how this one allows for a lot of details and includes plenty of info that could be needed when it comes time to study for a test or plan for writing an essay. The last note-taking method we will cover is the outlining method. If you've ever written an academic essay, you may be familiar with the concept of outlining, which is a great pre-writing tool as well as a helpful method for taking notes. Start by titling your outline with the topic and date of the lecture. Then, organize your notes just as you would an outline for an essay, with the main ideas as the largest bullet points, the smaller subpoints as further bullet points indented underneath, and details and/or examples also bullet pointed and indented even farther to the right. This method is an effective way to organize notes and will also help you get down a lot of the info you may end up needing to study for a test. So, as you can see, the outlining method doesn't just work for essay time, it comes in handy during exam time too. Here are a couple of handwritten examples of the outlining method. The one on the left uses color coding, which can be a great organizational tool no matter which note-taking strategy you opt for. This student has chosen to use blue for their main points, green for subtopics, red for the supporting info under those, and orange for the smallest details. And the one on the right uses the same body language topic as our final mapping method example, showing how different note-taking formats can work for the same subject matter. These note-taking methods have mostly been discussed within the context of taking notes during a class lecture. However, there may be times when you will want to take notes while reading, which can require a different focus. When taking notes while reading, you should consider the main idea of the text, determine your overall goal of reading the material, and try to break the material down into more manageable pieces to avoid feeling overwhelmed. And when it comes to taking notes on a written text, annotation is your friend. Annotation simply means making notes and marks directly on the text you are reading to help you understand and absorb the information. Of course, this method should only be used when reading a book you own or an article you printed out. Typically, annotating a text involves using a highlighter to denote important parts of the material you know you will need to focus on, as well as writing notes for yourself in the margins. As you annotate a text, consider the applications of the material you are reading. Write out any questions you may have about what you are reading, and jot down any connections you notice between points being made. Here are a couple of examples of annotated texts. The example on the left shows the use of highlighting, and this person used a few different colors, most likely based on a system they devised. As I mentioned before, color coding is a great organizational method for your notes. The example on the right shows a pretty extensive annotation, including some little drawings. While it's possible this student was just doodling for fun, note that these drawings could also be a way to help them remember something in this text they wanted to come back to. This is a great example to illustrate that there isn't a wrong or right way to take notes. Whatever works for you is your best method of note-taking. As stated previously, handwriting notes is more haptically engaging than typing them, and this means that you will retain more information simply through the act of writing. So, even when you're taking those notes, you are beginning the process of studying. You can continue that process by using the notes you've taken when you study after the fact. For example, with the Cornell and mapping methods, you can use a sheet of paper to cover parts of your notes and quiz yourself. In addition, notes created using the charting and outlining methods could be easily converted into flashcards. Finally, a quick word about note-taking and artificial intelligence and recording class lecture notes. Artificial intelligence, AI, can be an effective note-taking tool if used properly. For instance, you could use a program like ChatGPT to turn your notes into the aforementioned flashcards, or to help you organize your notes if organization is something you struggle with. Furthermore, if you struggle with getting everything down during a class lecture, you could consider using your phone or another device to record class lectures, but be sure to get your instructor's permission first. Need help with a writing assignment? The Gaston College Writing Center has your back. We offer both online and in-person appointments, and we can help you with any writing assignment from any class at any stage of the writing process. We can be reached at 704-922-2369, and we are located on the second floor of Morris Library in room 204. You may also request an appointment using our online request form, which you can find by going to https://www.gaston.edu/writing-center/. We look forward to serving you.